My mother-in-law called me street garbage and made me sit on a plastic chair in the corner while she forced my husband to pose with his ex at Christmas. When I spoke up, she threw wine in my face and screamed, "Servants don't have opinions," as everyone just sat there. Now my husband's calling me 35 times begging, but I'm not picking up. I was standing at the kitchen sink in our little rental in Joliet, Illinois, rinsing formula out of my daughter's bottle, when my phone started vibrating so hard it rattled against the counter. At first, I ignored it. My husband, Mark, had been working late all week, and sometimes he'd call repeatedly when he forgot something at the office and needed me to check a drawer or send a picture of a document. But when it buzzed again and again and again, 15 times in under 2 minutes, I felt something cold slip down my spine. I dried my hands and checked the screen. 35 missed calls, all from Mark. My breath snagged in my throat. I called him back, but it went straight to voicemail. Then the texts started. Each one only a few words, frantic, uneven, like he was typing with shaking hands. "Please call me. It's about my mom. I need you home right now. I'm sorry." That last one stopped me. Mark doesn't apologize easily, and never without a long explanation that justifies whatever came before it. But there was nothing else, just that bare, desperate sentence, "I'm sorry." My daughter started fussing in the bassinet, picking up on my panic, but I couldn't move. I was stuck in the center of our dim kitchen, the only light coming from the flickering bulb above the stove, staring at my phone like it could tell me what was coming next. Because with his mother, there was always something coming. My chest tightened the way it always did when I thought about her, about Christmas last year. When she'd made me sit alone in the corner on a plastic folding chair she pulled out of the garage, so I wouldn't dirty the nice seats. Everyone had watched in silence while she placed his ex-girlfriend right next to Mark. Brushing imaginary lint off the woman's dress and saying, "Now this is what a proper match looks like." She forced them to hold hands for the family photo, even made them kiss on the cheek. While I sat clutching a paper plate of overcooked ham, pretending I couldn't feel every set of eyes sliding away from me in embarrassment. And when I tried to speak, tried to say anything at all, she threw a full glass of Merlot in my face and said, "Servants don't have opinions, dear." I remember standing there dripping red wine onto her expensive hardwood floor, humiliated in a way I didn't know a person could survive. So whatever had Mark calling me 35 times in a row, it wasn't small, it wasn't normal, and it wasn't going to be good. I grabbed my keys with shaking fingers, lifted my daughter into her car seat, and headed for the door. My thoughts were spiraling. Had his mother lied again? Had she done something to him, to us? Had she finally crossed whatever invisible line even he couldn't ignore? Before I stepped outside, my phone buzzed once more. A new text from Mark. This one was different, longer, clearer. A message I would read and reread until the words burrowed into my bones. "Please don't freak out. Something happened at my parents' house. Just drive safe. I'll explain everything when you get here." I'm so sorry for what she did. I froze on the threshold, the cool night air rushing against my face. What she did, not what she said, not what she claimed, what she did. And even though I didn't know the details yet, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. This time, his mother had finally gone too far. I pulled the door shut behind me. I didn't grow up with much. My mother worked nights at a nursing home in Aurora, and my father bilayed before I turned 6. By the time I was in high school, I was bussing tables at a diner off Route 31 and taking care of my younger brother between shifts. Nothing about my life was glamorous, but I kept my head down, did what needed to be done, and tried not to want too much. Wanting, I'd learned early, only made the losses hurt more. Then I met Mark. He came into the diner with a group of friends from his business program at Lewis University. He was clean-cut, polite, quick to smile, and asked for extra napkins like it mattered that I got them exactly right. When I brought their check, he tucked a 20 under his coffee cup and scribbled his number on the receipt. I told myself I wouldn't call, but I did that same night. With him, everything felt easy. He didn't care that I lived in a cramped apartment or that I'd never been on a plane. He loved that I was grounded, as he called it. Real, steady. He said I made him feel normal, like he could breathe outside the expectations of his family. It wasn't until 6 months in, when he suggested I come to his parents' house for dinner, that I understood what he meant. They lived in a sprawling colonial in Naperville, all white shutters and manicured hedges, the kind of place where even the mailbox looked smug. His mother opened the door, took one long, sweeping look at me, my affordable dress, my worn flats, the thrift store purse, and her smile froze like she'd tasted something sour. That night was the first time she ever called me dear in that stiff, condescending way. "Sit anywhere you'd like, dear. Do you work full-time at that restaurant, dear? Oh, how quaint, you grew up here, dear." But the real blow came later, when Mark stepped outside to take a call. She didn't even pretend to be kind then. She leaned across the table, her voice low and sharp as glass. "You are not the girl he's supposed to end up with." I remember staring at her, not understanding at first. She continued. "My son comes from a good family, a respectable one, you don't fit, and he will outgrow whatever this little phase is." I was 21. She made me feel 14, awkward, small, foolish for ever thinking I belonged in that polished house. I should have walked away then, but Mark came back inside, brushed a kiss against my temple, and whispered, "You okay?" And I convinced myself that his love could outnumber her hate. I ignored the snide comments, the backhanded compliments, the way she'd introduce me as the girl Mark's seeing for now. Every insult she slipped in front of relatives. "She's sweet, but you know how some people are raised without certain standards. She's very streetwise. Isn't that the polite term these days?" Then came the accusation that I poked holes to trap her son. She spread it around like gossip was oxygen, whispering it to aunts, cousins, anyone who'd listen. When I got pregnant, she didn't congratulate us. She demanded a DNA test. She said our daughter didn't look like a Reynolds baby, as if she personally owned the patent on their genetics. And Mark, he defended me sometimes, but only in private. In public, he'd freeze, too afraid of rocking the boat, afraid of upsetting her. But the worst moment, the one that etched itself into my skin, was last Christmas. The forced chair. The ex-girlfriend, the wine in my face. The room full of people pretending not to see what was happening in front of them. After that night, something inside me shifted, not enough to leave, but enough to remember. Enough to mark the boundary where love ends and humiliation begins. So when my phone lit up with 35 missed calls, my body reacted before my mind caught up. Because history had taught me something unmistakable. If Mark's mother was involved, then whatever had happened, it was personal, and it was aimed at me. By the time I pulled into our driveway that night, my hands were trembling on the steering wheel. The porch light was on, but the rest of the house looked dark. I unbuckled my daughter and carried her inside, half expecting Mark to rush toward me, but instead I found him sitting on the edge of the living room couch, elbows on his knees, his face buried in both hands. He looked up when he heard me. His eyes were red, not from crying. Mark didn't cry, but from something deeper, something like panic eating him from the inside. "Okay," I whispered. "Tell me." He opened his mouth, closed it again, then stood and began pacing. "I need you to just listen, don't get angry yet." That word, yet, told me enough, but I stood still, holding our daughter close, waiting. "It's my mom," he finally said. She crossed a line tonight, a big one, bigger than anything she's done before." I didn't interrupt. He kept pacing. "She invited the entire family over, last-minute thing. Said it was a small gathering, nothing fancy. But when I walked in, everyone got weird quiet. No one would look at me. I thought maybe it was something with Dad or one of the cousins, I don't know, but then she came downstairs with this smirk." He swallowed hard. "And she told everyone she had news." My stomach clenched. "What kind of news?" Mark stopped pacing. His voice dropped. "She said she had proof you were cheating, that the baby isn't mine. She printed out some kind of DNA test with my name on it and handed it around the room." My breath left my lungs like a punch. What DNA test? That's impossible, Mark. That has to be fake." "It was fake," he said quickly. "Obviously it was fake. The format was wrong. The date was wrong. The lab wasn't one I used for my paternity test at work last month." I froze. "What paternity test?" His face went blank, like he realized too late what he'd said. My mom kept pushing and asking questions, and I thought maybe if I just got one, she'd shut up. I didn't doubt you, not really, it's just, you got a paternity test. My voice was barely a whisper. Behind my back, he took a step forward. I didn't tell you because I knew it would hurt you. It does, I said. Right now, it hurts right now. Our daughter let out a soft cry, sensing the shift in the room. I rocked her gently, keeping my eyes on him. She humiliated you tonight, he said. They all believed her for a minute. She waved those papers around like they were gospel. My aunt even told me I should lawyer up. And when I said the test was fake, my mom, God, she called you street garbage again. In front of everyone, said I threw my entire future away on someone who wanted a baby meal ticket. Every word sliced deeper, but I stayed still, listening. That's when I left, he said. I should have walked out sooner, I know that, but I finally did. I told her I was done. I told her I wasn't letting her near us ever again. I wanted to believe him. A part of me even did. But another part, the part she'd spent years grinding down, kept asking where this certainty had been when she'd thrown wine in my face, when she'd forced him to kiss his ex, when she'd accused me of trapping him. My voice came out steady, but inside I was shaking. Why did you call me 35 times? He looked at me then, really looked, and I saw fear there. Not fear for me, not fear of losing me, fear of what his mother had done next. Because she's not finished, he said. And what she sent to the family group chat right after I left, you need to see it. He reached for his phone with trembling hands. Something in me, something that had been slowly hardening over the years, shifted again. Not breaking, solidifying. Whatever was coming, I was done absorbing blows. I braced myself. Mark hesitated before unlocking his phone, like he was about to open a door neither of us could close again. My daughter had finally drifted to sleep against my shoulder, and the quiet of the house felt wrong, too thin, too fragile, like one loud breath would shatter it. He turned the screen toward me. At first, all I saw was his family's group chat, familiar names, familiar bubbles, a long chain of unread messages. Then I saw the attachment, a PDF. The file name made my stomach twist. Emergency protective filing, Reynolds family estate, my voice cracked. What is that? He swallowed. Just read it. I tapped the file with a shaking thumb. It opened to a formal letter, legal formatting, stamped header, attorney's signature at the bottom. Except the content didn't make sense. It looked like a petition, a legal request. But the wording, pending action to restrict access to minor child due to concerns regarding maternal instability, coercive behavior, and risk of financial exploitation. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. This is saying I'm unstable, I whispered. Mark nodded once. It's saying I'm dangerous. Another nod. It's saying I shouldn't have custody of my own daughter. His silence was confirmation. My knees threatened to give out. I eased into the nearest dining chair, clutching my daughter closer, as if someone was already trying to pull her from my arms. She sent this to your entire family? I asked. She said she was consulting them as witnesses, he replied, voice tight. She said they should be prepared to give statements. Statements about what? I demanded. She barely knows me outside of the insults she invents. Mark ran a hand through his hair. She claims you screamed at her last month at the grocery store. She claims you threatened to disappear with the baby. She claims you've been hiding money from me. She claims you admitted to cheating. It's all fabricated. I stared at him. And your family believes this. He didn't answer, and that told me everything. Heat roared into my chest, not embarrassment this time, not fear, something sharper, something that felt like survival instinct waking from a long sleep. Why is she doing this? I demanded, my voice low. He shut his eyes. Because she found out something tonight, something she wasn't supposed to know. I felt the world tilt beneath me. What did she find out? He looked at me with a strange mixture of dread and shame. The will. My heart thudded painfully. What will? My grandmother, he said. It updated 2 weeks ago. I didn't even know until my dad mentioned it tonight. My grandma left a sizable trust, one she wanted passed down to the next generation. And she put it in my daughter's name. Not mine, not my mom's, not the family foundation. Just our daughter. I blinked slowly, letting that settle. "And," I pressed. "And," he whispered, "my mom lost her mind over it. She kept saying it was illogical to give money to a child who wasn't a Reynolds. She said the only explanation was that you manipulated my grandmother, or that the baby wasn't mine." There it was, the real wound, the one his mother couldn't hide behind fake manners. "This is about money," I said, the realization slicing through me. "She's trying to paint me as unstable so she can challenge the trust." Mark didn't deny it, but he looked pale, too pale, like there was still more he hadn't told me. "What else, Mark?" I whispered. "What aren't you saying?" He sank slowly onto the couch, elbows on his knees, voice barely audible. "She didn't just file paperwork with her attorney." My pulse hammered in my ears. "She tried to file something else," he said. "Tonight. Before I left the house." He lifted his eyes to mine. "She tried to open an emergency custody claim for our daughter without us knowing." The world went dead silent. No air, no sound, just the knowledge that everything had just shifted. My mother-in-law wasn't humiliating me anymore. She was trying to erase me. I don't remember putting my daughter down in her crib. I don't remember walking back into the living room. What I do remember is the moment something inside me stopped shaking and went cold, clean, focused, like a lens snapping into clarity. Mark was still talking, rambling about how his mother's emergency custody attempt hadn't gone through. "The clerk rejected it," he kept saying. "She didn't have standing, she didn't even have the right forms, she rushed it, she messed it up." But that didn't matter. What mattered was that she tried. She tried to take my child. I sat across from him, spine straight, hands still. "She won't stop," I said quietly. "You know that." He didn't answer, but the look on his face was agreement. For years, I'd taken the humiliation, the condescension, the whisper campaigns, the manipulation. I'd told myself I was protecting Mark, protecting our daughter, protecting the fragile peace he insisted existed somewhere between his mother's cruelty and his excuses. But this wasn't humiliation. This was warfare. "What do you want me to do?" he asked finally, his voice small, defeated. It was the first time he'd ever asked me that. The first time he wasn't positioning himself between me and the problem, he was handing the problem to me. I didn't respond right away. I stood, walked to the kitchen, and stared out the window into the dark yard. My reflection stared back, tired eyes, tense jaw, a woman who'd been underestimated for too long. If she was willing to fabricate documents, mobilize relatives, and weaponize every rumor she'd planted over the years, then the only way forward was to dismantle her power at its root, piece by piece. I took a slow breath. "First," I said, "we document everything. Every insult, every text, every witness, every time she's crossed a boundary, we're building a record." Mark nodded, rubbing the back of his neck. "Okay." "Second," I continued, "we get ahead of her narrative, we talk to your grandmother's attorney. We tell him she's trying to interfere with the trust. We request a statement confirming the legal intent and ensuring no outside party can contest custody based on manufactured allegations." He swallowed. "My mom is going to explode if we go around her." "She already exploded," I said. "This is the fallout." He didn't argue. For the first time, he didn't defend her. I walked back toward him, my steps steady. "Third, we need protection. Legal protection, not reaction. Proactive. Tonight, we draft our own emergency custody protection filing. We establish ourselves as primary guardians. We lay out her harassment, her false reports, her attempts to undermine parental stability." His eyes widened. "You want to beat her to it?" "No," I said, sitting beside him. "I want to make sure she can never get close enough to try again." He looked at me like he was seeing someone new. Or maybe someone who'd always been there, just buried under survival mode. "She's going to retaliate," he warned. "She already has," I corrected. "Everything she does next only strengthens our case." But there was a deeper truth I didn't say aloud. I wasn't just planning to stop her. I was planning to destroy the mechanism she used to hurt people. The image, the influence, the network of relatives who bowed to her, the reputation she hid behind. She'd wielded humiliation like a weapon for so long that everyone around her mistook it for authority. It was time to expose what she was. Mark took my hand, the gesture hesitant, like he wasn't sure I'd take it. "I'll do whatever you need," he said, and for the first time I believed him. I squeezed his hand once, then pulled away. "Good," I said, "because tomorrow we start, but tonight you're going to send your family one message." He looked up. "What message?" "That anyone who participates in her lies becomes part of the legal record, and part of the investigation I'm about to open." His eyes widened. He nodded slowly. I wasn't doing rage. I wasn't doing fear. I was doing strategy. Calculating, deliberate, surgical. She thought she was fighting the same girl she humiliated in a plastic chair. She had no idea who she'd actually woken up. I woke up the next morning with the kind of clarity that feels like adrenaline wearing a business suit. Mark was already in the kitchen, pacing with his phone in hand, a mug of untouched coffee going cold on the counter. I could tell from the way he froze when he saw me that something had shifted overnight, something he didn't know how to say. "What happened?" I asked. He hesitated. "My mom, she's already moving again." Of course she was. I waited. He set the phone down slowly, like he was afraid the message on it might explode. "She contacted Child Protective Services." My stomach bottomed out. "On what grounds?" "She told them you refuse to allow family contact, that you're emotionally unstable, and that she's worried the baby is in an unsafe environment. She also claimed you isolated me, and that she fears for my well-being." I stared at him, but he couldn't meet my eyes. "She used you as evidence of my instability?" I demanded. He nodded miserably. I felt a tremor start under my skin, not fear, but fury so sharp it almost felt clean. Before I could speak, his phone vibrated again. A text from his brother this time. Mark flinched. Then he read it, and his face drained to white. "What now?" I asked. He handed me the phone without a word. "Dude, Mom's not lying about everything. She said she had something to show the family, something you should have told us about before you two act like victims." My pulse hammered. What would she even have? Then another message came through. "She has proof you've been planning to leave her, bank statements, a separate savings account, cash withdrawals. She said she's been tracking you for months." I looked up slowly. "Mark." "What separate account?" He shook his head, eyes wide with disbelief. "I don't have a separate account. I don't know what he's talking about." But something in me went cold. Because I did. I remembered the letter that arrived 2 months ago. The one addressed to Mark at our old apartment. The one I assumed was junk mail, something about a secondary savings profile update. Mark brushed it off at the time, said it must have been a bank error. I believed him because I wanted to. Now I wasn't so sure. Before I could ask anything else, his phone buzzed again, this time a picture message. He clicked it, and the world turned. It was a screenshot from a bank dashboard. Account name: Mark Reynolds, joint account holder, unknown. A savings account with transactions going back nearly a year. Cash withdrawals every month. Several large transfers out recently. My throat closed. "Mark, what is that?" "I swear to God, I don't know," he whispered. I don't have this account. I didn't open it, I didn't." But I wasn't looking at the balance. I was looking at the most recent transaction. $3,500 transferred to WH Legal Associates. Legal Associates? My blood went ice cold. "Your mother didn't open this," I said. "She couldn't have. She wouldn't be able to put it under your name. She wouldn't be able to authorize transfers. Mark, someone helped her. Someone with access." He blinked at me, confused. "Who?" But I already knew. The realization hit me so hard I stepped back. "You," I whispered, his face twisted. "What? No. You didn't open it intentionally," I said. "But someone used your identity. Someone who knows your personal info. Someone who knows your patterns. Someone who knows how to forge your signature because she's been doing it for years." Understanding washed over his face in a single, devastating wave. "My mother," he said. "No," I answered. "Not just your mother." He stared at me, breath shallow. Then his phone buzzed again, one more message from his brother. "Mom says she'll show everyone tonight, especially the part where Mark paid a lawyer to prepare for a separation. Guess his little wife didn't know about that." I felt the room spin. A separation, a lawyer, documents. Money funneled into a hidden account. But the truth crystallized with terrifying clarity. Mark hadn't hired a lawyer behind my back. His mother had hired one, using his name to make it look like he was preparing to leave me. And if she controlled the narrative that he'd been secretly planning separation for months, then everything she filed yesterday, custody, instability, DNA rumors, suddenly made perfect, horrifying sense. This wasn't random. This wasn't reactive. This had been her plan all along. A long game, a coordinated effort, a premeditated erasure. And now I knew she wasn't just trying to take my child. She was trying to end my marriage from the inside out, using forged legal steps she could point back to. Mark stared at me like the ground had vanished beneath him. "What do we do?" he whispered. My voice came out low, steady, lethal. "We stop reacting," I said, "and we start hunting." Because now that I understood her game, I wasn't afraid. I was ready. Mark sat on the couch like a man bracing for an impact that had already happened. I could see it in the way his shoulders curved inward, in the way his hands fidgeted like he didn't know where to put them. The room felt too quiet, like the air itself was listening. "We need to talk to her," he finally said. "No," I replied. "You need to listen first." He swallowed hard and nodded. I pulled a chair across from him and sat down, leaning forward. "Your mother didn't wake up yesterday and decide to destroy me. This wasn't sudden. This wasn't emotional. This was calculated." Mark rubbed his temples. "I know, but why? Why go this far? Why risk legal consequences? Why? Because of the estate," I said. His head jerked up. I continued. "Your grandmother gave something to our daughter. Something your mother believes she's entitled to. She thinks she's the rightful gatekeeper of the Reynolds legacy. And when she found out the trust bypassed her, she snapped. That doesn't explain all of this," he said quietly. "The lies. The forged accounts, the fake custody filing, the attempt to make it look like I'm leaving you, that's not just greed." He was right, and I'd been circling the truth without naming it. "She's not trying to take your daughter for custody," I said. "She's trying to take her because she believes your daughter doesn't belong to me, not legally, not socially, not financially. She believes your daughter belongs to her." Mark shook his head, choking out a bitter laugh. "That doesn't make sense." "It makes perfect sense," I said, "to a woman who believes lineage is everything." He stared at me, and something in his expression shifted as pieces started snapping together in his mind. The forged paternity doubts. The fake medical paperwork, the gossip she spread, the grocery store lie, the fantasy that he'd secretly prepared separation. He dropped his hands to his sides. "Oh my God. She's not trying to erase me because she hates me," I said. "She's trying to erase me because she thinks I dilute the Reynolds bloodline, because I didn't come from her world, because my daughter carries my last name next to yours. Because the trust going to a child who is good enough breaks the universe she built in her head." Mark whispered. "That's insane." "It's narcissism turned feral," I said. "She's losing control over you. Losing control over the family image. And now losing control over money she thought would someday elevate her position. That kind of person doesn't break quietly." He sat back, stunned, but I wasn't finished. "Last Christmas," I said, "when she forced your ex to sit next to you, when she had you hold hands, when she made her kiss your cheek, she wasn't reminiscing. She was rewriting the story. She was trying to place someone of her choosing next to you, someone she could control. Because in her mind, if she could recreate the proper match, then everything wrong in her world would reset." Mark's face twisted. "She wanted me back with Claire." "No," I said. "She wanted you with anyone but me." He shook his head slowly, terrified by the clarity of it. "She doesn't see you as a person." "No," I replied. "She sees me as contamination." Mark flinched like the word hit him physically. "She threw wine in my face because humiliation is her currency. She called me street garbage because that's how she justifies the cruelty she inflicts. She accused me of trapping you because if she believes I'm manipulative, she doesn't have to admit you chose me freely." Mark whispered. "You're describing someone who doesn't just dislike you. You're describing someone who wants you gone." I held his gaze. "She does," I said. "And she's almost finished building the case to make it happen legally, socially, and financially." He stared at the floor, breathing uneven. "And now," I finished, "you're going to hear the part she's been hiding from everyone, including you." His head snapped up. What? I leaned forward. Your mother didn't forge a separation filing because she wanted to break us up. I paused long enough for the truth to land. She forged it because she wants you to lose custody too. His face went gray. She wants full control of the trust, I said, and the only way she can access it is if neither parent has standing. He exhaled like the wind had been punched out of him. She never wanted to take my baby away from me, I whispered. She wanted to take her away from both of us. Mark looked like he might be sick. And now, I said, rising from my chair, you understand exactly why our revenge has to be absolute. The moment the truth settled between us, that his mother didn't just want to destroy me, but him too, something in Mark broke open. Not loudly, not dramatically. It was a quiet collapse, the kind that changes a person from the inside out. He whispered, she was never protecting me. No, I said. She was positioning you. For the rest of the day, we operated like two people planning an evacuation, methodical, silent, driven by the knowledge that safety depended on precision. I called an attorney I trusted from work, someone who specialized in family cases involving coercion and fraudulent filings. Mark gathered every message, every screenshot, every slip of evidence his mother had ever left behind. I compiled statements from the few witnesses willing to speak privately. The cousin who told me she hated how I was treated. The aunt who admitted under her breath that the Christmas humiliation had made her sick. And then I made the most important call of all, his grandmother's attorney. I explained the fake custody attempt, the forged account, the rumors she spread as though she were sowing seed. The attorney listened without interruption. And at the end, he cleared his throat and said, Mrs. Reynolds has been warned multiple times to stop interfering with trust affairs. If what you're telling me is accurate, she's crossed into actionable misconduct. Good, I said. Because I'm documenting everything, he paused. You may want to prepare for blowback. I'm counting on it, I replied. Every misstep she makes now becomes leverage. By late afternoon, Mark and I had built a full record, dates, screenshots, witnesses, forged documents, the illegal custody attempt, and even the hidden account she'd opened using his stolen information. My attorney drafted filings for protective orders and formal complaints of identity misuse. Mark signed every page with a steady hand. Then came the part he dreaded most. You're calling her, I said. He looked up sharply. Why? She'll just scream. Exactly, and she'll incriminate herself. Put her on speaker. Don't argue, just ask one question, why she opened a legal account in your name. Mark swallowed, then dialed. The phone rang twice. His mother answered with the syrupy tone she used when she was lying. Mark, honey, I've been so worried. He cut her off. Why did you open a savings account in my name? Silence. Thick. Loaded. Then her voice shifted into the tone I knew too well, hard, clipped, vicious beneath the veneer. Because someone had to protect this family's interests. You were too blinded by that woman to do it. I met Mark's eyes. He kept the phone steady. You forged my signature, he said. You hired a lawyer pretending to be me. You tried to file for custody of my child. She scoffed. Your child? You wouldn't even have a child if she weren't trapping you. Mark hit speaker so her voice filled the room. My attorney, sitting beside me, began typing immediately. She kept going. I will not let that girl destroy the Reynolds line. I don't care what your grandmother thinks. I don't care what the courts think. That baby belongs with us. And when this is finished, you'll thank me. Mark whispered, you were trying to take her from me too. She didn't deny it. She didn't even hesitate. You're weak, she said. You let yourself be manipulated. Custody will go to the most stable guardian, and that's me. It's always been me. I hit record on my phone. His mother kept digging her own grave. You should be grateful. I made sure the filings looked like they came from you. When everything collapses, the court will believe you tried to do the right thing. Mark stared at the phone like it was a live wire. We're done, he said. Legally, permanently, entirely done. She laughed. You don't get to walk away from me. But when he hung up, she already had. That recording went straight to our attorney, then to the investigator reviewing her custody attempt, then to the bank's fraud department, then, finally, to his grandmother's attorney. Within a week, the trust lawyer issued a formal notice. She was barred from all trust involvement. Permanently. Within 2, the fraud investigator contacted Mark to confirm charges. Within 3, her own family, faced with irrefutable proof, cut ties. Not out of morality, but out of self-preservation. And for the first time since I'd known her, she had no audience for her cruelty. That was the real revenge, not the filings, not the exposure. Not the collapse of the empire she thought she controlled. It was the silence, the hollow throne, the reality that she had engineered her own exile. One morning, weeks later, Mark sat beside me on the porch. Our daughter slept between us in her stroller, her tiny chest rising and falling with the steadiness of a life untouched by the storm that created her safety. "She's never going to stop hating you," he said quietly. I nodded. "She doesn't have to," he looked at me. "Are you okay?" I took a deep breath, one that didn't feel tight anymore. "She spent years trying to bury me," I said. "She forgot something important." "What?" "I grow in dark places." Mark reached for my hand, and this time I didn't pull away. The war was over, not because she surrendered, because she lost. And when I looked at my daughter's sleeping face, so peaceful, so untouched by the violence of her grandmother's legacy, I knew the final truth. She would never sit in a plastic chair in anyone's corner, not while I lived and breathed, not ever.